Can you hear me now?
Can hear you now.
Hear you now.
Morning, Tom. How are y'all?
Tom.
If I get a bad echo, y'all let me know. This is coming through my TV, through my speaker. I'll just mute out.
Hi, Tom.
Okay. We are live on YouTube.
Are we ready to go?
We're ready.
All right, I am calling this meeting to order. It is 8:32 a.m. on the 19th of February for this emergency meeting by audio video broadcast. It is February the 19th. It is 8:33 a.m. and we will start with our agenda item, which is the emergency provision notice in accordance with the Texas Government Code Section 551.045. This is an emergency meeting of the City Council declaring an emergency urgent public necessity for the purpose of considering the following emergency agenda items. We did not receive any public comments, so there will be none read into the record. The emergency agenda item A is update on the status of the San Angelo water system, and we have Allison Struby here today to present that.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Since the last press conference held last Friday, February 12th, the utility has been through catastrophic impacts to our operation. While it provides me very little comfort or ease through this process, we are not alone in facing water issues. It has been stated that over 12 million Texans are facing supply and/or boil water notice issues due to the weather and electrical issues this past week. As we provided updates to the Pauline area issues, we ended last week with massive amounts of water being flushed from the system, specifically in that area. Our crews began executing a flushing plan late last Wednesday, February 10th. These crews worked around the clock flushing over 90 hydrants in the affected area. This flushing ended around 4 a.m. Saturday morning. That same Saturday morning, we began taking samples throughout the Pauline area in the do not consume area. With the weather deteriorating as it did, we were unable to get those samples to the lab until after we had already issued a citywide boil water notice on Tuesday due to a pressure loss in the entire system. Sample results were received this past Wednesday and forwarded on to TCEQ. All samples were clean, but at the time of receiving those results, our system was not pressurized enough or stable enough to discuss the restriction lifting with TCEQ. The city has requested a discussion with TCEQ later today to further reduce the restrictions for this area. We will provide an update to the public soon after those discussions occur. When it comes to the events that happened with the contaminants in the water of the Pauline area, it's been discussed or rumored that this was an intentional or malicious attack on our water supply. We have found no evidence to confirm or support that. These chemicals are common in a multitude of commercial industries, from car truck repair to agricultural businesses. All of these type of industries are present in the do not use restriction area today. Late last week, we had the assistance of McAllen City employees performing customer service inspection on these facilities. Unfortunately, due to the storm, they had to go back to McAllen before the road conditions deteriorated. But while they were here, they were able to go to many of these facilities for inspections. The result of those inspections did not provide solid confirmation of the source. With the declaration that you are extending today, we will be able to continue to receive assistance from customer service inspectors available across the state to continue those inspections that will hopefully result in a confirmation of the source of chemicals. While we are taking all the steps we can to identify the source of last week's contamination, we will also be taking steps to prevent future events from occurring. These steps include implementing a more rigorous backflow or cross-connection program, continued inspection of customer facilities to ensure water system is protected, and continuing to ensure backflow assemblies are meeting their annual testing requirements. While we have been asked if there will be criminal charges filed against those responsible for the spill, the city's attorney office is reviewing all options available, both civilly and criminally. However, future actions taken will be determined whether we can clearly identify the source. That update brings us to this bitter cold week. On Tuesday, a citywide boil water notice was issued. This notice was issued due to the loss of pressure and ultimately the loss of water to large portions of our distribution system. As I discussed a moment ago, we went into this winter storm event with a massive flushing plan being executed. We were able to maintain deliveries for the first few days despite losing power at our river pump station and tank pumping stations because we had backup generators to utilize when those systems went down. We did lose the ability to pump water from the Hickory due to power outages on that system, but our river pumps were able to keep up with demands. Currently, our surface water source is the Concho River as supplied by Lake Nasworthy and Twin Buttes. OHIV system has been down since mid-October, while CRMWD recoats the distribution system tanks that feed water to the customers, with us being one of those customers. On Tuesday, the battles we were facing were many, but they included freezing lines that wouldn't allow for pumps to start, pump control cabinets at the pump stations that were completely frozen, a frozen fill valve, and ultimately the last straw to affect the system were the leaks that have been numerous as the freezing weather continued to stay in San Angelo. We have been working continuously to reestablish the pressures in our system ever since the loss. It's been a very slow process, but we're making slight improvements every day. On Wednesday, plant pressures were around 40 to 50 PSI when the normal is above 80 to 90. Thursday, those pressures improved to 70 and 80 PSI, and we even started to see some volume make it into the Lakeview and Loop tank storage facilities. Last night, we were able to see those tank levels increase and even start to be able to bleed water pressure into parts of the high plain. For reference, our Southwest tank is 9.4 million gallons, Abilene is 3.5 million gallons, our Loop elevated tank is 1 million gallons, Lakeview elevated tank is 1.25 million gallons, and ultimately the Bluffs tank is another 2 million gallons. Currently, when I left the plant this morning, we had water both in the Loop and Lakeview elevated tanks and some in the Southwest. We have yet to start filling the Bluffs or Abilene tank. Our flow rate of deliveries yesterday was approximately 21.5 MGD. This is typically a flow rate we see in the peak summer heat, and even then, sometimes we don't see that type of flow rate. We have seen a lot of questions asking why the city can't simply shut off water to the low plain and fill the high plain. In theory, that's a great idea, but that's not how our system works. The water treatment plant supplies pressure to the majority of the low plain, and although water does leave the treatment plant through large mains that feed to tanks, there are many feeds off those bigger lines that feed the low plain. The low plain must be full and pressurized before water can make it to the tanks that feed to the high plain. The tanks and additional pumping systems throughout the system feed the full pressure to the high plain. We are asking, and at this point, I personally am begging customers to conserve and be responsible water users. Use it for life-sustaining purposes only, which include flushing of toilets and boiling water for consumption. The less demand we have on the system, the more water we can be dedicating to filling tanks, citywide repressurizing, and ultimately rescinding the boil water notice. It will take everyone's assistance to get through this. I want to also make sure everyone is aware that we're not just asking this of customers in the low plain, and we're not just asking this right now. We will be able to send more water into the high plain, and we'll be asking those customers to do the same thing. It will take large amounts of water to completely fill our high plain distribution lines and regain pressure in those areas. And we'll be right back to refilling tanks as we are now. Until pressure is regained citywide and tanks are returned, we'll be asking for this conservative use of water. The boil water notice will be in effect until we can get tanks filled, system repressurized, and then sampling can begin. As we've experienced before, these samples take at least 18 hours to run, and we will be collecting a large number due to the massive dewatering of the system. so it will take time to rescind the bulk water notice. I also think it's important to set the expectation and to warn citizens that as temperatures increase and we begin to thaw out, we will see more main breaks and likely additional leaks on the customer side. These past couple of weeks have been painstakingly hard, and I want to thank our customers for working through these difficult events with us, and I know we will get through this. I'll be happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
Allison, would you once again talk through the issue of the low plane versus the high plane? Because many people still believe that the low plane area is consuming too much water, preventing the high plane from receiving the water they need.
I believe that we need our customers to be as responsible as possible, because yes, the usage in our low plane will dictate how much water makes it to the high plane at this point. But last night, and after a lot of the messaging I believe we had on our social media accounts last night and the news that we've been putting out, we did see those elevated tanks be able to regain some volume, and we were ultimately able to feed some amount of water into the high plane. And so I think that the urge or the outcry that at least I'm begging of our customers to conserve water, I believe we're seeing it at this point, and we are able to see those tanks start to fill.
Does council have any questions for Allison?
I have one, Mayor.
Go ahead, Billy.
All right. Allison, first of all, I just want to commend you and your staff for the tremendous job that y'all have done and, working through all of this. These were unforeseen circumstances, and we just appreciate so much the kind of around the clock work you've done. And one of these days, you and I will have a chance to laugh about me asking about whether my husband should go to a dental appointment. I know it's not now the time to do that, but could you just, Allison, reiterate kind of on what the mayor was asking about, the low plane area versus the high plane area? Could you share again how the system works, that the low plane has to reach a certain pressure before anything can flow into the high plane? Would you just reiterate what you said about that?
Yes, ma'am. It's so much more easy to explain this with visuals or to show you on a board, but ultimately there are very large transmission mains that leave our water treatment plant. Those provide the pressure to the low plane. There are feeds off those lines that go throughout neighborhoods and the downtown area of San Angelo and all the way up to the north and south ends of the system. Those are the mains that are ultimately also feeding water into the tanks themselves. But as there's more pull off all of those distribution lines, it leaves less water at the very end of that system to make it into the tank. We don't have a way to just turn off the water to the low plane and dedicate it strictly to the high plane. That's just not how our system was built throughout time. And so it's just the nature of the distribution lines that we have to have full pressure in the low plane to be able to reach the extents of the high plane.
Thank you.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I have received emails from people who say that they are seeing a lot of people in car washes and the laundromats are packed with people. Can we just talk through that a bit? I can't imagine people are taking their cars through a car wash, but I've been told that that's happening. Is there anything that we can put out there for the public to please restrict car washing and as a step to help conserve water and get the tanks full?
Mayor, that was the same question that I had. Thank you.
I guess what we're saying, go ahead, Allison.
I guess I can't speak to if we can shut them down or not, but all I can say is, we are putting out that message. I know Brian's, putting that out on Facebook as much as possible, that the essential or the life-sustaining purposes of water right at this point are flushing of toilets and boiling water for consumption. But as far as those businesses, I can't speak to that part.
We
So,
can through the
Allison, let's-
declaration, much like we did, during the early COVID stuff, we can issue some orders to restrict their ability to operate for a period of time if that's something council wishes to do.
Tommy, what were you going to say or ask?
I want to be even more specific, Allison. When we're talking life sustaining, I know people love to bathe if they haven't bathed in 3 or 4 or 5 days. I assume, so that it can be clear for the public, I assume we are even requesting folks to conserve water to avoid bathing themselves and their children until such time that we get the system back up to pressure, so that then everyone can take care of that need. Is that an accurate statement through a question?
Yes, sir. I believe that is correct. We are, obviously, we want people to be sanitary and hygienic, but we're asking people to not don't go soak in a 30-minute hot water steaming shower as well. So if you need to rinse off real quick or those type of things, I think that is sufficient, but we're trying to minimize that usage as much as possible and make sure it's to serve the purpose of getting clean and then moving on with turning that water off.
Well, I think the key thing is quick showers, not long showers.
I've been telling everybody like the scenario, if you're bathing in a camper, you want to turn the water off, shampoo your hair, turn it back on, rinse it off real quick. That's as best as I could do to tell people how to shower if they need to get in and out. Is that a correct scenario, Allison?
I think that would be a conservative use of water if you were turning off the water while, you put shampoo in your hair and those type of things.
Are there questions or comments from anyone else on council before we move forward?
Lucy and then I. Lucy, you're on mute.
Okay, so let me ask, do I need to,
Lucy, you're on mute.
Lucy's on mute.
okay,
And then I got one ready too.
well, go ahead,
Mayor?
Tom. Yes, Lucy.
Yes, I just wanted to ask Allison. Allison, again, thank you so much for your hard work and your crew and all the city staff. My question is, can you tell us again, Allison, when are we to receive those samples for the pollen edition?
We have received the samples and they were clean, but we have sent those to TCEQ. And so we are hoping to have that discussion with them later today on what restrictions we can start lifting from the pollen area.
Okay, thank you so much.
Tom?
Allison, I got a question for you. I'm trying to explain it. So if we look at our water system, we're almost like an upside down wedding cake, all right? As it feels, and then it works its way up, correct? Would that be a way to categorize it? I got to be, don't understand that. If we don't conserve water, how long is it going to take us, in your estimate, before we get to a point where we can come off a water boil? Is that 5 days, 7 days? If we don't, and if we do, can we possibly cut a supply down to maybe getting those tanks full in 2 days? If you got a range.
I think with the headway that we made last night, if we can have another night like that, nighttime is when we can make up a lot of ground when everybody's asleep and not using water. And so I think if we can repeat last night again tonight, I think that we will get a lot closer to having better pressure in the high plane. And at that point, we could start pulling samples possibly tomorrow, if not Sunday. So maybe we can look at rescinding the bull water notice either Monday or Tuesday.
All right. But the message is quit using water. Shut down as best you can, emergency use only.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Al.
I have another quick question, Allison. Did I understand you as you were going through the chronology of what tanks would be filled, that the Bluffs tank will be the last tank to be filled?
Yes, so our Bluffs tank does not have a dedicated transmission main to it from our treatment plant. That facility fills from our Abilene and Loop tank facilities. Or sorry, I misquoted. Southwest and Abilene fill the Bluffs tank. So we've got to have water in those 2 ground storage facilities to fill to the high plane or to the bluffs tank.
Okay.
Daniel, you were wanting to make a comment?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to stress something that Allison said a while ago. It's really important to really put it out there. She had mentioned 12 million customers without actually under the boil water notice across Texas. I read a report this morning that number has gone up to 13 million customers. That's half of Texas residents that are on a boil water notice. And the reason I bring that up right now, and that's actually over 700 water systems that have been impacted across the state of Texas. The reason I bring that up, it's imperative for us to really work together to conserve that water so that we can actually get our tests done and get the boil water rescinded, the notice rescinded. That has to go through TCEQ. If you have that many water systems that are under the boil water notice, they're going to have a tremendous backlog. You know, so we want to make sure that we can get our testing in ahead of other water systems that are having the same issue, so that we can rescind ours as soon as possible. So again, I just wanted to say that so we can stress to our citizens to help us out at this point so that we can get our testing done and get that to TCEQ as soon as possible.
Mayor, Tommy.
Yes,
Hubert.
Tommy.
Brian, you have done an excellent job too with the public information. If you can just keep emphasizing to the folks that follow us on Facebook and Twitter and other social media to conserve water as much as they possibly can. I think that message still needs to be repeated as often as possible so that people that keeps it at top of mind for them. Maybe it might stop them from doing something that they would otherwise normally do. They don't need to conserve quite as much water. So good job on what you've done, and keep it up.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'll give a shout out now that everybody has power that our partners in the media have done a tremendous job in getting the word out, and we could not do this without them. So thank you to all of our media partners.
Well, I want to say the following, and that is that there are folks who live in the Delwood area, the area off of South Chadbourne and Oak Christoval Road, as well as the Metcalf area. They received power last night around 9 o'clock, which is the first time they've had many of them, not all of them, but many of them, since Sunday 2 a.m. or basically Monday 2 a.m. So those folks haven't had water, haven't had power for 5 days, almost 6 days. So let's also conserve so that they can finally take a bath and finally take care of themselves, because they have not had the opportunity for many days. They have carried the blunt of this power outage. They tried yesterday to bring them up. It kept going down. Finally, at 9 p.m. last night, they were able to split some lines, reduce the load, and finally get those folks power that stayed on for several hours. So that neighborhood has really paid a huge price for all of this winter storm. So I just thank them for being patient. They've really gone through a lot.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just have a question for you and or Daniel. You know, on social media, at least that I was looking at, I didn't see where AEP was partnering with the city in getting communication out about the specifics of what was happening and why we couldn't get power. And I'm just wondering, did we have an AEP partner in this?
Mayor, I'll answer that. Yes, we do. We have our representative in our area. His name is Blake Burchard. And I know the mayor and I were in constant contact with him. But again, we were wanting to get more press releases. And I think at this point, especially with AEP, they were waiting for word back from ERCOT as far as how much power could be released into the system. So I think there was some communication issue there, because we would have really appreciated more press releases coming from them, so we knew exactly what we could anticipate. A lot of the calls that I made to Blake, and I'm sure the mayor as well, we were hearing the same thing, is that they were not getting the authority yet to release the power to our area. And ERCOT, you know, is under fire for that. I know that we had, the mayor worked very diligently with all our state and federal elected officials to put pressure on AEP, to not just AEP, but ERCOT also, to get that electricity back to our area. But again, that's what we kept hearing. And really what we needed was better press releases, I think more in layman's terms, to really explain to our citizens exactly what was going on there. So again, on our part, we're hearing the same thing, and there wasn't much to report back from Blake as far as what he was hearing from ERCOT or not hearing from ERCOT.
Right, and I understand that, Daniel, but it would have been nice if the community as a whole could have heard some of that, and not just you and to the mayor, because, you know, the citizens of San Angelo hold the city leadership accountable. And it would have been nice if they had been on, you know, social media and at press conferences, letting folks know the specifics of what was going on. Is, you know, just my concern that we didn't see or hear from them as much as I think we should have. And I understand that they were under the authority of ERCOT, but, you know, they're our local representatives. And I just think they should have been out there more with you and with the mayor partnering on this.
I think that, and I can say this too, I know that even with AEP, there's always this concern about throwing a certain group under the bus, especially at ERCOT. So I think that there was probably some concern as far as sharing certain information, maybe pointing, I'm just conjecturing here, you know, as far as pointing the finger at ERCOT and saying, hey, we're just not giving that authority. I don't know, you're right, Billy. I think that's something definitely that Blake or AEP should have come out and done a little bit more presenting on that, because we really didn't get that presenting portion of it. So again, that's lessons learned as well. And in the future, of course, just to push to ensure that that organization really is out there doing everything they can to get the information out to our citizens.
I think that the other issue that complicated it all, as you are very much aware, is even the KLST and KSAN's power went down. Foster Communications lost power. So many people in the city didn't have power. So even though we might have had limited information, getting it out to the public with reduced media options was very difficult. AEP was reluctant to put some of the information out there because the minute they put it out there, ERCOT pulled back the amount of power that they were giving them. So if they said we are going to be able to put, I'll make up a number, 30,000 more people with power today, and then all of a sudden ERCOT pulled back that power 1 hour later, then that went down to 1,000 people. So it was the unreliability of the information given, because at any point what was said changed hourly. And so it was hard to put out a press release with solid information, because solid information did not exist.
Mayor, I do want to point out that, of course, every single press release we did receive, Brian Groves was on top of that, and he did put it out to the media. So again, those press releases released by AEP, our public information officer was really quick to put that information out there as well.
Mayor, let me.
Yes, Tommy.
Nobody has said anything to Shane. Shane's sitting here in this meeting too, like it's like we're looking beyond him. Shane, I want to personally thank you and every one of your operations people. I know many of you, including yourself, Allison, you too. Brian, you may have been a part of this too, but I know there were a lot of people that didn't go to bed Tuesday night because they were outside in the cold weather looking for water leaks. And the rest of us were in bed under covers if we didn't have power. Shane, thank you to you. Thank you to all your staff. Allison, thank you to you and all your staff. Brian, to you and Lorelei for getting the information out. And Daniel, please relay. I'm going to speak for the council here. Please relay to all city staff for what they've put up with really for the last year through this COVID and now through the last 2 weeks of an unprecedented situation. We use that word, but people put their lives on hold when they, and I'm talking about our employees, they put their lives on hold to deal with these sorts of things. So I think we say thank you. I don't know how we show that appreciation other than saying thank you, but I say thank you. I have had 2 or 3 constituents this morning text me while we're sitting here in this meeting saying thank you to the city employees for all that they have done, specifically the last couple of weeks through this tough water situation, from Paul Ann, then to the low pressure, the no water. So thank you to everyone. Shane, your guys and you need as much recognition as everybody else. So thank you, Shane.
I think it goes without saying that all of council supports the comments that Tommy just made. It doesn't help sometimes to know that many other communities are going through the very same thing that we are going through, but we have not been unique in going through the pain of the power and water issues. With that said, obviously we live in San Angelo, and it is the quality of life our citizens expect from us as a city. But it must also be said that this city has gone to every possible level of work ethic to try to deliver the services that people expect from our city. It has been a lot of lessons learned, a lot of pain, a lot of anger, as we all know, many situations of our inability to impact the decisions. For example, on power, the city does not have the power to turn on or turn off electricity. And I know that through this process, many people believe that I, the mayor, Daniel, Allison, Shane, whoever had the authority and the ability to turn the power on, just didn't do it. That is out of our control. The one thing we do have is obviously our ability to communicate to the public what is going on, as much information as we possibly have. And certainly there was a lack of information. So we ask that you continue to allow us to get as much information as we can, get it out as quick as we can. With everyone having power today, I think that we have the ability to get out the information at a better level than we've been able to. But not having TV stations and radio stations to help us in the communication, we can do all we want on social media. If you don't have power at your house, it doesn't matter what we're putting on social media. So the most that we had is really neighbors helping neighbors, family helping neighbors. Many people talked about my neighbor across the street has power, I don't. This is when we all have to, lend a hand and help our neighbors and our family and the elderly. We as a community have to help the community, and that, I know that's, people are going to criticize that comment, but it's truly what we are as a city. It's a city full of citizens, neighbors, family, and friends. And we continue to lean on you and ask for you to help us in the communication and the support that all of our citizens need.
Mayor, also,
Lucy?
I just wanted to make a short comment. On behalf of the Pauline residents, they were so grateful to the city for going out there and delivering the water for them to drink. We are so grateful to the city, and they kept on sending us messages telling us thank you, thank you, thank you, because this was done in the middle of the afternoon when it was pretty cold, and the city truck was going down the street of every road in the Pauline district. So on behalf of the Pauline residents, thank you very much, Shane and his crew.
and
All right. Go ahead, Daniel.
Just one other thing, Mayor. I know that there's a lot of moving parts, and there's much going on behind the scenes that a lot of people really don't see. Thank you for all of y'all for expressing your gratitude to Allison and Shane and the crews and the tremendous work that they put forth, to get everything up and going. It's still a work in progress, but we still had, of course, our civic events guys, Carl, Sid, and Steve, that worked their, behinds off to make sure that we had the warming shelters in place, to make sure that we had a place for citizens to come in and not just get out of the cold, but also to be fed, have someone to talk to. I think they did a tremendous job as well. Police and fire, just keeping people safe on the streets as well. We just did a wonderful job. It was an all-out effort. And again, my gratitude to all the staff. It would take forever. Really, we don't have that much time to thank every single person individually, but we are absolutely grateful.
Mayor Harry Thomas.
Yes.
Just quickly, I think everything's been said. Tommy, you did a great job of reiterating exactly what I was thinking. I had the opportunity on Wednesday. There was a crew out here working on a water leak right beside my house. in the street, and they were finishing up the job, and I visited with them and thanked them for what they were doing. We certainly have a tremendous group of city employees that are dedicated to taking care of the citizens. The one item, and I'll go back and say this, and Billy said it earlier, Mayor, you've said it. The one item that I struggled with during this whole time, phone calls, emails, Facebook, all social media type stuff, was the lack of information that we were getting from AEP. And the Mayor, you said it, people think that we have the opportunity as city leaders to flip a switch and you're going to get electricity. We've got to do a better job of getting that information to the citizens. And I really depend, and I said this to Blake on Wednesday morning as I was driving around town trying to stay warm in my car, is we've got to find a way that they can do a better job of educating the citizens on what and what cannot be done in from their situation. I just think that once we get through this, we should have Blake and Fred Hernandez try to put something out, hold some informational meetings or whatever the case may be, because as we go through this and try to reiterate secondhand to the citizens, sometimes information is not, I don't do maybe as good a job as that was coming from directly from AEP. So I would encourage them to do that and try to educate some people ahead of time. Now, this may be a once in a lifetime event. Hopefully it is, but in the same token, we're going to get through this in the next few days. And I do appreciate everybody's help on this. So most citizens were supportive of the city, the staff, what the mayor and the council was doing. They just really had a tough understanding why AUP couldn't do more. So I think some education may be in line. So thank you.
All right, Julia, do I need to?
I've got a question for Allison real quick.
Yes.
Allison, can you one more time reiterate the tank levels and what tanks fill up the other, and kind of, if you have those numbers in front of you, on what percentages the down tanks are before we need to have enough to fill up the higher planes tank? What tanks fill up the other one? I'm getting messages about that. Can you reiterate that?
Okay. We can operate the system in a multitude of ways, but for right now, we are filling the Lakeview and loop tank. The loop tank is the large one you see right off the loop. It's elevated up in the air. We are filling those two tanks first right now, and then we will begin filling the Abilene ground storage tank, which is near Abilene Street, and Southwest ground storage, which is back behind Walmart and Lowe's. That is the largest ground storage facility we have. Once Southwest and Abilene are filled, we can use those pumping stations that are at those two facilities to pump water into the Bluffs tank, which helps stabilize the entire pressure for the high plane.
Very good.
I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
I will add, we're going to put Allison's statement out after all this is over to send to everyone. So all this information that she has said, we're going to send out to everybody. So those who haven't watched can read that.
That would be great.
Mayor,
Okay.
let me
Yes,
bring
Tom.
something up here, Mayor.
Yes.
Both my personal cell phone and my city cell phone, as we have been sitting here, have just lit up with people asking if we are going to do anything about the car washes and the washaterias. Are we going to ask? Are we just going to request that they can serve? Are we going to take some action on that? Again, both of my phones have just blown up here in the last 20 minutes with those two questions about car washes and washaterias. Are we going to send, maybe some of our code enforcement people around to visit with them first? I mean, what are we going to do here with those that may be super users?
Well, let's do two things. First of all, let's separate car washers from laundromats, because I'm sure one is a necessity and one would like to have a clean car. There are people who haven't had water in their homes. I don't know what their situation is relative to needing to wash clothes. So I think we need to make sure we talk about those separately and deal with those on two separate issues.
We do, Mayor, and we can address it. I know that right now we're doing the update and status on the San Angelo water system. So we may be kind of going off of what we should be discussing, but that's something that I can address with Teresa James afterwards, and do everything we can actually to get that word out to those businesses that they need to be restricted. So we'll work on that.
Daniel, I would say initially, let's see if we can ask them, let's say firmly, but ask them to comply with conservation. If they do not choose to comply after being asked once or twice kindly, I would say, then maybe we have to restrict them. But let's see if we can get them to come into compliance with requests first, and then if other steps need to be taken, we can take those steps, whatever they need to be.
We'll do. Okay.
Okay, so do I need to read the disaster declaration?
Ma'am, you need to, go ahead, Julia.
If you'll just read, if everyone's finished discussing the water system update, we can go on to item B. If you'll just read, and then Teresa's prepared to discuss that, and then we can have action on that.
Okay, so item B is consider reauthorizing and extending a disaster declaration related to water contamination in the Pauline area, and authorizing the city manager to execute all related documents for emergency purchases up to $100,000. Do I need to go ahead and read item C as well?
You can if you want me to talk about both of them together, or we can just do one at a time. It's whatever you prefer.
I think I'll go ahead and read item C as well, and we'll talk about item B first. But item C is consider a local disaster declaration for Winter Storm Uri, authorizing the city manager to execute all related documents for emergency purchases up to $100,000 and waiving permit fees through March 18th, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Both of these declarations are necessary for us to continue to receive services and things from TDEM. As you may recall, with the issue in the Pauline and the contaminants in the water system, the mayor did do a declaration. Those declarations that are executed by the mayor are only good for 7 days. So that initial declaration has expired. So what the first item does is it reinstitutes a declaration by the mayor and then allows the city council to continue that declaration beyond 7 days. We also are finding that the testing costs are already exceeding or getting close to exceeding the $50,000 that we are authorized to spend without council approval. And it's anticipated, and Allison can probably talk more about this, that we are going to be having a significant amount of testing going forward to deal with the concerns of the contaminants in the water. So we are asking that the city manager be authorized to enter any emergency contracts related to the water contamination issue and to pay any invoices that do not exceed $100,000 that are necessary to conduct testing and repairs related to the contamination. The second declaration is very similar. It has to do with Winter Storm Uri, which is the name. I realized last night it actually had a storm and a name, and that's what it is. It's Uri. And we're declaring a declaration. There's already a governor's declaration, but his declaration, from what we understand, only covers the relocation of people and, you know, doing the warming centers and those sorts of things. It doesn't necessarily address any local issues like broken pipes or broken infrastructure. So we are also declaring a local disaster pursuant to the Texas government code related to the winter storm. Similar to the other one, we are asking that you authorize Daniel to enter into emergency contracts and pay invoices not exceeding $100,000 that are necessary to alleviate any of the concerns that come up. We also, if you'll recall, during our disaster related to the tornado, waived fees for permits to make these repairs. If people's pipes do break, there is going to be a permit process that they'll have to go through. And so we're asking that you waive those permit fees for the next month to allow people to make those repairs. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have questions for Teresa from council? I'll go council by council. So Tommy, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Billy?
You're on
Billy,
mute, Billy.
Okay,
Tom?
sorry.
Okay.
Teresa, are there any income restrictions on repairs due to the water line breaks and things like that?
We are doing an item coming up that Bob will discuss, the program that we do have, and we are going to be asking you to make some changes to that program, but that's coming up on another item.
Okay, but as far as getting those repairs done and
The permit
emergency
fees?
declaration, it doesn't have any dollar amount tied to it.
No, we will waive all permit fees regardless of income.
Thank you.
Tom, did you have any questions or comments?
No, ma'am.
Lucy?
No, ma'am.
Lane?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then may I have a motion to approve items 3A, B, and C?
Mayor Tommy Hebert, so moved.
Thank
Lucy
you.
Gardolph, second.
I think I had 3 seconds on that. So Bill, you, whoever you captured. All right, with no public comment, we will take a vote on items 3A, B, and C. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Were there any opposed? With none opposed, items 3A, B, and C are passed. We will move on to item D. Item D is update on emergency repair program and consideration of a resolution modifying the income thresholds related to the city's emergency repair program. And I think Bob Solis is on for this presentation.
Good morning, council. I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind council and our citizens that we still have funding for our emergency repair program. that
I'm
can
sorry,
assist-
Bob, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I don't know.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
That's better. Yes, thank you.
Okay, I guess I need to speak up a little bit. Okay, I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind council and the citizens that we have funding for our emergency repair program that can assist at no cost with issues affecting the health and safety of our homeowners, to include things like water and sewer line repair and replacement, a water heater replacement, and electrical issues. The program is funded through our HUD CDBG funds, and it is limited to low moderate income homeowners or 80% of area median income limits set by HUD. I think it's also referred to as median family income. I think you hear both terms used.
Define that number, Bob, define that number. What is that number?
That number, 80% of AMI for a family of 4 is $56,000.
Say that again, Bob, how much?
It's $56,000 for a family of 4, and then you add or subtract 6,000 based on family size.
So you said 5, 6, 56.
560, yes, sir, 56,000.
Okay, thank you.
Now, we also have approximately $19,000 from royalties received from our service line warranty endorsement, which currently follows the HUD income limits. However, council can adjust the income limits to these royalty funds to assist homeowners that exceed the 80% AMI threshold. If council agrees, staff can adjust the program design to assist homeowners without insurance that meet the 100% of AMI, which is 72,400 for a family of 4 in our MSA. This will provide us some flexibility to deal with unique circumstances that we otherwise could. So we're kind of looking for direction from council to see if you want to go that direction.
The first question I would have, Bob, is if we adjust it upwardly, is there really the funds to take care of that? Because it all gets down to, we can adjust, but do we have the dollar amount that could support adjusting that number upwards?
Well, we have 19,000, but that would go pretty quickly. However, that could give us a little bit of flexibility for a few folks, a few families that are unique. We could come up with some kind of design that would kind of provide some funding for those special circumstances. I can't define those what they are right now, but I could put my staff to work and we come up with something. Now I could let council know at that point what those are. And then it gives us a little bit of flexibility, like I said, to deal with that just in case it comes up. Otherwise, we are limited to the 80% AMI.
Well, it would seem to me without any definition, without any presentation on exactly what that would be, we need to stick with the 80% of the 56,000 until we have you come back and present to us what the new parameters and issues are for adjusting that.
Sure.
Mayor Harry Thomas.
Yes, go ahead, Harry.
I believe based on phone calls that I've gotten and social media posts that you're going to find that there are enough people in San Angelo that meet those original guidelines that can take advantage of what we're trying to offer here through those programs. That money is going to be exhausted before we get into any special circumstances. So I would suggest that we stay where we are today, and if we, at our next council meeting, if we find that citizens are not taking advantage of that, and Bob has some specifics outside of these parameters, then maybe he can present them then. But I would say, based on what I know about people's lines that were frozen and broken, that we will have a tremendous amount of citizens willing to take part in this that meet those guidelines.
Thank you, Harry. Any other comments from other council members? All right, then what we'll do is, Harry, would you like to make the motion to approve item D with what you just said is to keep it at the 80% of the $56,000 until we have further information and guidelines, knowing that we'll probably use up all the money just on this original authorization up to the 56,000
Right.
income.
I'll motion to approve item D, staying with the 80% of the $56,000 for those citizens that need the city's input on this CBG Community Development Block Grant money and those federal funds that are coming through.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Do I have a second?
Wayne Carter,
Again, I think there's a lot of seconds, so Julie, capture one of them because I can't differentiate from the voices. So
Okay.
with that, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 With none opposed, that motion would carry 7-0. We will move on to item E, which is the discussion of financial impact of Winter Storm Uri and possible options. And Tina, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor. I just really wanted to take this opportunity to update the council on what we know so far. I've been in discussions with our TDEM, our Texas Department of Emergency Management contacts, to find out what kind of assistance, if any, may be available to the city for the storm event. Right now, funding can currently only be approved for shelter and evacuation expenditures. So we're taking steps to at least seek that approval from TDEM. We're also taking the steps to make sure that if and when additional funding may become available, we will be ready to seek it at that point. Things like tracking expenditures for everything that any of our staff is doing and any supplies or anything like that. We are already tracking those through a project code. And so if we do receive additional funding, we'll be prepared to report that to TDEM at that point. They can also assist with issuing cots, blankets, and some other supplies if requested or needed. So if you're aware of anything like that, please let us know and we will begin to work toward those ends as well. Since the thresholds for assistance from FEMA and TDEM require, the city and the county and the state expenditures to get to a certain threshold, it can take a little time for that information to be compiled at the state level. But again, city staff is doing everything we can on our end to compile that information.
Do council, do I have any questions or comments from council for Tina? There's no motion needed on this issue. It's just a discussion at this point in time and allowing all of us to know that Tina and the finance department is working with TDEM, state and federal, to see what support financially we might be able to use. And with that, I will ask for a motion for adjournment, please.
Mayor?
Yes, Tommy?
No, I guess maybe I need to ask Teresa this question first. We have Shane on here. Is there any possibility, Teresa, that Shane could give us very brief overview and what, with respect to Republic Services and their intentions and abilities now that we hopefully are going to start seeing things warm up with respect to them picking up recycling, bulk, and regular household trash? Can he do
Well,
that?
we did do some research on whether or not there would be a financial impact to us as far as fees that we are paying to Republic. And so I think if he stays pretty close to that, we can squeeze it in under this discussion of financial impact.
I've got one more question, maybe for Daniel.
Well,
to
wait
ask.
a minute, Lane, wait a minute. Let's have Shane to answer Tommy's question first. And then
Well, and
Lane,
let
I'll
me
have you
preface
on.
it. Let me preface Shane's comments by saying that we looked at the contract yesterday and Republic is able to have up to 11 days without service. And so Shane, maybe you can address how many days it's been and when their service might resume to know if we're going to meet that threshold.
Yeah, the service was suspended last Thursday due to road conditions about the same time that we started seeing the ice move into town. So services are going to resume today. As the sun comes up and the roads start thawing. So service will resume today. It will start with the Thursday service that was left off when they suspended service last time. So we will start with Thursday services today. They will collect everything in the Thursday area today, and then we will then they will work through tomorrow, and Friday services will be tomorrow. And then they will start over again on Monday, just like a normal week, and progress through that. And they will be running extra trucks with extra bodies to collect the additional trash that has been built up due to lack of service.
Jane, will they pick up everything when they come, or will it be on our normal bulk day, normal recycle day?
They're going to try to collect everything as they come through. They will have they're running bulk trucks, they're running the recycling trucks, and they're running their standard trash trucks. And they're going to try to do that all basically at the same time through this next week to try to really push hard and catch back up on the days that they suspended their service due to road conditions.
Thanks, Shane.
Okay, Lane, did you have a comment?
Yes, I've had this question asked to me from a few people, and that I think all of us need some clarity on from AEP and the Electrical Commission. There's been a lot of talk about rates, electrical rates, and how they are going to start charging people in this emergency situation. Daniel, do you know anything about that? Can you clarify that, or can we get more information about that to where we can give to our citizens?
It seems to me that right now that with ERCOT, there was a message as far as some of the needs for the grid that they may have to adjust what they would actually charge for electricity. But I can tell you right now that there's a lot of our state legislators that push back on that. So I don't know where that's going to go. And again, we have a lot, as I mentioned a while ago, our legislators are pretty upset about this. So any talk about increasing fees, there's going to be some pushback on that. So on our end, I can guarantee you that we'd be doing the same thing. But that's the only thing that I've heard at this point, Lane.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel.
You're welcome.
And Mayor Brian Groves,
Yes.
can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Hey, Teresa, I don't know if this fits in the financial item, but do you want to address the price gouging with the Attorney General and that we've been seeing some of that locally?
Yeah, we have had, especially when our shelter was open, we had some concerns raised to us that there were some hotel facilities that were increasing the price dramatically of a hotel room. That is considered price gouging since we are under a declared emergency at the state level, and people can look at our website. We have a link for you, but go to the Texas Attorney General's website and just put price gouging in the search bar and you'll come up with their page and it describes what that is. It doesn't apply to everything, but it does apply to things like food and housing and supplies. and also a form to report that, and the Attorney General's office will handle investigations into those concerns.
But to be clear, Teresa, we, the city, do not fill that out. It has to be on a customer by customer basis. It's not the city that files the gouging issue.
That is correct. Individuals need to file those forms.
Okay. All right. Anything else before we ask for an adjournment?
Mayor,
Yes, Billy?
you know, what Tommy said that we all endorsed and what has been said numerous times about, you know, the thank yous to Allison and Shane, you know, you're my buddy. You know, I didn't mean to leave you out. So, but may I please just share something that just popped up in my email? And it won't take long, but it was sent to me and one of my constituents was letting me know that he also sent this to Allison. And it says, Mrs. Strube, too often departments such as yours only hear complaints about service or billing, and never often enough do they receive notes of thanks or congratulations. As someone who understands what goes on behind the scenes, I want to extend my thanks and appreciation for the work you and your whole department, especially those who have worked long hours in the sub-freezing temperatures to get our water supply operational again. I have worked outside at night in similar temperatures. I know what it is like. I live in the High Plains area. It was a real morale booster this morning to see water flow from the faucets. I know the tanks aren't full yet, so we will use water judiciously as requested and appropriate. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel that isn't a train. Please pass on to all of your staff, especially those involved in working in the cold, wet environments of a ditch, my sincere thanks. I know they would rather have been in a warm home with the families, but instead they stood up for the greater good. They are heroes in my book, most sincerely, and I won't say his name, but I just thought, you know, as we're talking about this, and we do receive a lot of frustrated calls, but here's someone with sincere appreciation. And I just wanted to share that for whatever it's worth. So Shane, Allison, Daniel, Mayor, everybody, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Billy. That is greatly appreciated. I'm glad you did that. Okay, so do I have a motion for adjournment?
Mayor, I'd move we adjourn. Tommy Hebert.
Thank you, Tommy. Do I have a second?
Second, Mrs. Gonzalez.
Again, Julia, pick up that second. And with that, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
With none opposed, motion passes. We are adjourned at 9:35 a.m. on the 19th of February. Thank you, everyone. And without,
Thank you.
Be above
one more
freezing
thank
today.
you to everybody.
Stay
Thank you.
warm.